Hello, my name is Rick Lewis. I'm with Phenom Hoop Report. On today's Coach's Corner, I have Coach George Marshall of Henderson Collegiate. Coach, when we're talking about Henderson Collegiate and George Marshall, you have a remarkable story in just 3 short years. Um, Henderson Collegiate is a 1A charter school. You just had a basketball team 3 years ago. In your first year, you went 13-13. Your second year, which was last year, you went 31-3. You went to the state championship. You lost by 1 point to Bishop McGuinness. This year, you went 26-10 and made it again to the state championship and was named co-champions with Winston-Salem Prep due to the COVID situation. We all know Henderson Collegiate is sort of a new name in the state of North Carolina as far as high school teams. It's in rural Vance County in Henderson, North Carolina. What made you decide to take over this program when you did?
Yeah, so my story I think is a little unique because I'm actually a Teach for America Corps member in the Eastern North Carolina 2011 Corps. And so I was placed at Henderson Collegiate when there was only fourth and fifth graders. And because we're a public charter school, we actually have grown a grade level every single year. So our oldest grade level, the class of 2019, who we call the pride of 2019, they just grew every single year and were always our oldest kids. So when we had our first year of varsity athletics, that was when they were juniors, and we had no seniors on the team, and we had majority of the team was actually sophomores and freshmen. And so that first year that we had varsity sports, we were actually starting 4 freshmen on the varsity level. And to be honest, just taking some real lumps and some bumps in the road, but learning every step of the way and learning the work ethic and toughness and mental strength that you need in order to be successful. We've only had varsity sports for 3 years. We actually have had middle school, though, for 7. And so our first time with the Pride of 2019 was actually when they were in 7th grade. In 7th grade, they had T-shirts as their uniforms. They had black shorts, and they had black sneakers. And we lost all 3 games that we played that year by 30-plus points. And
Wow.
so when we think about the growth in the match, I know that a lot of people focus on our last 3 years in particular. But when I think about those middle school years, the records we had our first 3 years as a middle school program were not good. There was 1 year we were 0-3. The next year we were 4-12. The year after that we were 5-11. So a lot went into us being able to be successful at the varsity level. There was a lot of heartache. There were a lot of challenges. And, I tell my kids all the time how grateful and how proud they should be of the program that they've built, because now we're in a position where we're competing at an extremely high level with the best teams across the state of North Carolina. And it was not that way when we first started. So from our standpoint, to be in that position is really a blessing, and it shows that hard work and belief and trusting the process is what it's all about.
Was speaking with Josh Thompson of Bishop McGuinness when they were playing you guys for the state championship last year. He was like, "I've never heard of Henderson Collegiate before," and that's probably the general sentiment that everybody was like, "Who is Henderson Collegiate?" And
Right.
you took over, as far as developing the program, 3 years ago. Your second year, even though you may have had a foundation at the middle school level, but for these young men to be able to play on on a state level at such an early process, because here you are, this is, like you said, this is your second year of coaching at Henderson Collegiate. You took them to the state championship and you lost by 1 point. It was a devastating loss because I think y'all committed a foul with less than 1 second to go, and the other guy went down and hit the free throw to win the championship. But that being said, what steps went into it for you to build the program to where it is right now?
Yeah, I think that the first thing is that you have to start with the understanding of what your mission is and what your core values are. So the core values of our program are things like work ethic, having a positive attitude, general toughness, both mental and physical, having really great humility. That's something that I value a lot, both personally and professionally, and being consistent. I think that one of the biggest things that we've needed to maintain consistency with is this belief that through all the hard times and through all the hardships that we're experiencing, that we would at one point be able to compete with the best of the best in the state. And so it seemed crazy. And I joke about this with the members of the team who are seniors in 2019, guys like Ashad Jefferson, who's now playing at William Peace, or Makai Lewis, who's a student at NC State, or Tyson Royster, who's at UNC. We've got a number of seniors from that pride doing great things. Victor Clifton is a student at Duke. But what I joke with them about is, could you ever have imagined that when I told you when you were younger that you'd be in a position to do this, that you'd do it? And overwhelmingly, they just say no. And they laugh about it, and we have great conversations about it. But, it's true, because when you're playing in an old gym like we used to practice in, there were times where the heat didn't work in the gym. So we had kids playing in sweatshirts and sweatpants. From that standpoint, and then being in a position where we could compete for a state championship, it's really just a blessing. And we're very, very proud of the work that our parents have put in, that our players have put in, that our coaches have put in. And I think that, we're set up in a really good position to go forward with this as well. But to be able to compete in that, we said it from the very beginning of the year. It was really hard at the beginning of the year. My son, George William Marshall III, we call him Trey. He goes by Trey. I think he'll go by that his whole life. But he's now 18 months, but he was actually born the first 2 weeks that we had practice that season. And so we're preparing for a game, and I'm literally calling into the team, whenever I'm not around him, because he had open heart surgery when he was 5 days old.
Wow.
So, my whole focus is on him and my wife, and making sure that we're okay with our first child. The assistant coaches did a great job, and the seniors did a great job of holding our team together. But, one of the most impressive things I think about our guys is that they never gave up this belief that eventually we would get there. And our focus and our standard never deviated because of that challenge. We ended up having a great first win that year against Ravenscroft, and from there, things really took off the way we wanted them to.
Well, Coach, after having a successful second year, coming into this last season, you really wanted to challenge your team, and you put them against a very tough, challenging, and brutal schedule. But that was by design, because you wanted to prepare them and give them the opportunity to basically play on the big stage. As a lot of people would say, you guys wanted all the smoke. Now, at the beginning of the season, you guys started off 0-4, but you were playing some really tough teams like Piedmont Classical, Moravian Prep, Wesleyan Christian, and Greenfield. Although you knew you was playing a difficult schedule and you started off 0-4, how difficult was it not to lose confidence knowing that you were up against a very challenging schedule?
I think it was really difficult. I wouldn't be honest I would not be telling the truth if I told you guys that it was just, ho-hum, we're good, it's this and that. When you go 0-4, you're managing teenage emotions. I'm a competitive person. Anybody that knows me well knows that. Those times were really tough. Those conversations were really difficult. But I think that what it did was it challenged us to improve our culture and improve our standing as a team faster than we ever had to the previous season. Going through those challenges, going through that level of adversity was absolutely awesome for our team. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Being able to compete with those teams at an extremely high level only set us up to be successful when we made our state championship run. When you play Piedmont, and that's a team that I don't know gets enough credit across the state and across the Eastern United States. We had to play Piedmont Classical at their place the very first time they had ever played a game in their gym, ever. So we were the first game in their new facility. The gym is packed. There's people essentially on the court because it's so crowded. And we took a tough loss that game. They were way tougher than us. But all those early games did was they told us things that we needed to improve in. And the reason that I appreciate our program so much is that any person at any point in time during that stretch could have given up hope. There were times when I was really hard on myself and very, upset with the results. But then I had great assistants who would check me on it. I have a great, family system at home. My wife was very supportive during that time, of course. And, wives don't get enough credit because they get the brunt of a lot of that whenever you get home. But even our seniors and our players and our captains did a great job of just being like, no, we're good. And that was cyclical. So if an assistant coach was going through the same thing, I'd be there for them. Or if a player was going through the same thing, an assistant coach would be there to check them on it. But we knew that going into this year, the biggest difference between last year and this year was our preparation for the state playoffs. Mm-hmm. Against McGinnis, we were not prepared to play a game in the 50s. That's not the way that we played the entire season. And when they were kind of, strong with possessions and this and that, or we'd go up 6, I never got a sense that we were going to break that game open. But this year, when you go and play at Piedmont, you go and play at Wesleyan Christian, you go and play at Greenfield. When we got to the state playoffs, and it's not a knock on those teams that we played, but we had to go on the road because of our record, but we were ready for that environment.
Right.
There was never an environment where we felt we weren't prepared for, because we had been through the gauntlet. We had been through what we believed was the toughest schedule out of conference in the state of North Carolina. And I stand by that, and I'll stand by it going forward, because I think we're going to have a really difficult schedule next year as well.
Absolutely. And I think, last year you had some peaks and valleys, and you sort of, after those first 4 losses, you had a nice little rise, and you had some nice wins. But then midway through the season, you played Tays Valley, you played Liberty Heights, you lost those games. But I think the turning point, in my opinion, is when you played Independence High School, which is a 4A power. And you beat them probably like 8 to 10 points. Mm-hmm. And I thought that might have been the turning point in the season. Do you think at that point in time you started gaining that confidence that, what, looking back, those losses early is going to prepare us for this title run?
Absolutely. And I think that what you saw in that game was an enormous confidence shift in players like Akyrus Holden. You saw great minutes off the bench from guys like Charles Kaya. Caleb Mathews is obviously Caleb Mathews, and his name speaks for itself. But, those guys who typically in the beginning part of the season may not have gotten, the same minutes, or may not have come in and given the same, intensity. They really started to believe in themselves in a way that we hadn't seen yet. And that was a huge difference maker for us down the stretch. The other thing that allowed us to do was it allowed us to refocus on our identity as a team. Our identity is not offensive. Our identity is defensive. And that's another thing that I'm totally unapologetic about. I truly believe that defense wins championships. And to be honest, the defensive identity that we had at the beginning of the season wasn't putting us in a position to be successful against those elite teams. So we had to check ourselves on that, and we did. All Christmas break, we had great practices, tons and tons and tons and tons of shell drill, full court, half court, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-4, whatever. We went through all the variations of that to make sure that our defensive identity was really strong. Going into Independence, we knew about their guards. We knew about their amazing wing players, and we knew that they had a big down low who was going to be tough and be a rim protector. So we had to go into that with a really great plan, a defensive plan, and we did. And as a result of that, we were able to come out of there with a really impressive win. And I think that you're right in the sense of, if you look at our record in the new year, once we won that game, I think that there's really only one loss, and that was to Liberty Heights. And I think that is a testament to the effort the kids put in and their commitment, and us really prioritizing finding our identity defensively, which I was really, really proud of. And I can't wait to build on. Quarantine has really been a step. It's been tough for so many people, and it's been tough for coaches and players, because now you build on that. You have the itch to get back into it. So I'm excited for us to be able to get back together with our brotherhood and go.
Well, you won the last 14 games of the year, and advancing to the state championship had to be somewhat bittersweet. You were excited. You advanced to the state championship for the second year in a row. But at that point in time, that's when the COVID-19 pandemic was hitting. So at that point in time, the state championship was delayed, and then eventually the state just said, okay, we're not going to play it, but we're going to name you co-champs. What went through your mind and the team's mind when you were advanced to the state, it was delayed, the setback there, and then later on saying, okay, we're going to make y'all co-champs?
I think that, first of all, the co-champion decision was the right one by the High School Athletic Association. They could have gone any number of directions. They could have said, well, you're just Eastern champions or you're just Western champions. Ultimately, all teams who got there did everything they could to get there, and it was out of their power whether or not they were going to be able to finish. So I commend them on that decision because I believe it was the right one. I think initially, whenever we found out that we weren't going to be able to have fans aside from essential personnel and close family members, my team's battle tested. So they were like, whatever, we'll be fine. Does it stink we won't be able to have students there? Yes. Does it put it on us on an equal playing field with Winston-Salem Prep? Yes. So we were in a position where we felt really good either way if we were going to be able to play the game. The heartache happened when we couldn't play the game.
Right.
And what's crazy is that all happened in one day. So literally, I get off the conference call with Commissioner Tucker and her staff and all the ADs from programs who are going to be participating in the state championship. And I immediately have to go to my school administrators and set up a meeting with them. All right, there's only 50 families allowed or 50 parents allowed plus essential personnel. Let's get our list out. Let's go. What's our game plan? We get the game plan. We announce it to the team. They're cool. Then literally 2 hours later, more news breaks, more organizations cancel their events. That was right in the heart of conference tournament season for basketball, for the NCAA. So we get to that point and, we get another conference call. And unfortunately, they made the decision to indefinitely postpone the game. And that was the hardest meeting with players. There were tears in that meeting. We had worked so hard to get back to that point, and we felt that we had rightfully earned being able to participate in that based on the way that we've been playing. We've been playing our best basketball all season, bar none, when we were going into that championship game. And so it was really hard initially, but, I think that our kids are also really smart. So, they could read the tea leaves even when other people refused to read the tea leaves. We pretty much knew that the decision was going to come down to whether or not, they were going to name co-champions or something else rather than play the game. But, we're so honored to be co-champs. I talked to Andre a lot since this has all happened. I wish him the best of luck in his next endeavor. I know that he made that public yesterday. And so I think that he's a great person and has been a great advocate, not only for his own team, but for our team as well. We both agreed we wouldn't want a co-champion any other way than with a great opponent like what we were going to have. Now, obviously, we wish we could play the game. I told him straight up, we were in a position where we were feeling really good, and so were they. So that would have been one heck of a basketball.
It would have been a great game. In the last couple of years, really two of the best teams at the 1A level. But I think we got to give credit to the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. They made the right decision, by postponing it, then canceling it, but more importantly, making you guys co-champions along with Winston-Salem Prep. That was the right decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coach, with this team, you still have a lot of youth on the team, but you lose one person that's really going to be someone you're going to miss dearly. Mm-hmm. And that's Caleb Mathews, who has a scholarship offer to play at Queen's University. What does Caleb mean to you and to the program?
Caleb is just an amazing kid. He's been such a joy to coach. He's been extremely coachable. I think that sometimes when you look at students that transfer into programs, it takes them a while to get acclimated, and he didn't miss a beat. He came in and was fully invested and fully committed to our culture and what we were about. I think that he has done so many amazing things and has accomplished so much for himself individually with our team, and all of that is earned. I can't reiterate that part enough, that he literally has earned his way to everything that he has achieved. He's one of the hardest workers in the gym. He's someone who on Saturdays when we would have practice from 10 to 12, he'd be there at 9:30 to do a shooting workout before practice, and then he'd shoot around after practice. I think that when things worked out with Queens, it was literally just like, it was almost a dream come true, because when we went on his official visit, everything that Queens was about was what he was about. And so I get a lot of questions about, like, why did he wait? Why didn't he wait? Or why didn't you, emphasize D1 with him, or this and that? Guys, that's literally a perfect fit. Perfect. It's a perfect fit academically. It's a perfect fit culturally. It's a perfect fit with his personality. Their coaching staff has just been so helpful to me in terms of my individual growth, giving me feedback, talking to me about different things. And I can't wait to see him go to the next level, because I think he's just scratching the surface of his potential because of how coachable he is and how hard he works. And he's been an incredible ambassador for our program and for our school. And so, I love him to death. I love him like a son. I think he's fantastic, and I can't wait to see what he does going forward.
Well, the thing about Caleb Mathews, after he made his commitment to Queens University, which is a D2 school, people understand how competitive Queens is a national level D2 program. They would beat a lot of the D1 programs very easily, especially at the lower tier and maybe even at the mid-major level.
Right.
There was a lot of schools at the Division I level after he had committed and saw him play and go, wow, this is really, really good. We missed out on him. So that was the general consensus. He could play at a like you said, at a much higher level, but he went to the place where he thought it was the best fit. And I think more kids ought to do that. I think that's a lesson to be learned. Now, going into the new season coming up, you return a pretty good nucleus. And I'm going to mention, one player, Javante Waverly, who is just a junkyard dog. He's tough. He's a big-time competitor. And he's going to lead you. Also, you have A.K. Holden. Talk about some of the other players that will make contributions next season.
Yeah, well, I think that, the guys that have been around the program the longest, and I know that you talked about our first season when we went, there's 5 people in particular who have been on varsity for all 4 years for us. And that's Javante, Jaquavion Venable, Akyrus Holden, Davon Allen, and Chris Franklin. And the thing that I'm so excited about, and I just, we did our first leadership retreat with the rising seniors that we've ever done, and really just to get them with a head start in terms of what they're thinking about for the culture next year and how they can benefit the program going forward and impact the program going forward, leaving a legacy. This is the first year that our senior class is truly the bulk of our talent on our team. And that's not a shot at our other senior classes, because we've had great senior classes. It's just that this year, when you think about the rising seniors that we have, they are going to be so impactful both on and off the court. And really, there's going to be a lot of role players on our team who are seniors, as opposed to some of the younger guys we've had in the past, because they were in the grades of the pride of 2021. And so when I think about this upcoming team, the guys I'm excited about, you can start with Javante, I think, is the best passer in the state of North Carolina. And I say that without any hesitation. People can @ me on Twitter. They can do whatever they want. There may be guys, and there are guys who are more athletic. There are guys who are going to be better shooters. There are going to be guys that are better defenders. But he does all those things well, and his feel for the game is 2 or 3 steps ahead everything. One of the things, I actually got off the phone with a college coach the other day talking about him, and they were asking me about just general highlights that I really loved throughout the course of the season. I said, you should watch highlight number 3 that I sent you. He said, why should I watch that? And I said, because in that highlight, you're going to see him take charges, knock down contested shots, and he's going to make bullet passes 50 feet with his offhand perfectly in stride for the person. Off the cover. And that's the thing that I think people just don't pick up on as much, is that, his size and his work ethic speak for themselves. He's an incredible worker. He's like Caleb in the way that he works. But his passing is truly elite. And that's something that I wish that more people would take note of. Right. I think that when you think of our other guys, Jaquavion Venable, I think, is one of the most underrated defenders in the state. And I say that because he's always willing to guard the best player on the other court. He has that dog mentality that makes him special, but he's always communicating. He's never silent. He won't shut up. And that's good, because he should be the person that kind of guides everyone else on the court and does what he needs to do. And is constantly calling out help side, gap, on ball, whatever the case may be. AK is an elite athlete. He's improving in his shooting. He has some big steps to take in that regard, and I think that he will take those steps. But in terms of being able to get up quick, I mean, he'll get off the floor with anybody in the state. And he is someone who, if you give him a step, it's going to be a dunk on your head. And he's someone that I think is so tenacious with rebounding the ball that it's been great. Davon Allen is someone I'm looking forward to seeing develop this year. Tough around the rim, great passer for a person his size. He's 6'4", but strong. Chris Franklin at point. And then off the bench, we've got a big in Josh A. Hart, who's going to be about 6'6". We're going to have a guard in Caleb Royster. People don't know this, but this kid, Caleb Royster, might be the most athletic person on our team. Wow. He's 6 feet tall, and he's full windmill dunk. He's a great shooter with great touch. And then Omaj Evans is kind of a bigger, stronger guard who put up some big numbers for us last year when we needed. And then we've got guys in our junior class who are coming up who we're also really excited about. So, we got a lot of good things going. And so we're really excited for what next year looks like. I'm excited to coach a team with such a deep senior class because I think that that's going to be really impactful for us going forward.
Well, Jaquavion, he has probably, you mentioned his defensive ability, but he sits down as low defensively. I call it defensive posture as anyone I've ever seen. And you mentioned AK Holden. He is so quick off his feet. So, you have a great nucleus as far as returning for next season. Coach, the one thing I really admire about you is the passion and the love you have for the game. But more importantly, I admire the love you have for each individual player off of Henderson Collegiate. What does this team mean to you?
There's everything. It's second family. There's, I think that one of the things I've appreciated about my time at Henderson Collegiate so much, not just as a coach, but as an employee, as a teacher, is that, when you go there and you're young and you're 22, you don't know anything. I mean, like, you're 22 years old, you don't know anything. Like, you think you know everything, but you really don't. And to continue to be humble enough to learn how to be humble first and foremost, and then to continue to be in a place that cares so much about my personal development has been fantastic. This team means everything. I mean, I really do mean that it's like a second family.
Right.
It shows. Grow. Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that a lot because they've allowed me to grow. The coach I am now was not the coach when Jaquavion was in 7th grade, and that's for the better. I don't know if I would survive if I was still that coach. I don't know what would happen, but I think that for me, I just love and care for this group of young men so much, and I think that to see them after this year and to see all the young men we've had, both the alumni in 2019 and 2020, and then going into future grades, 22, 23, it's great to see this brotherhood kind of take off. And, I owe them a lot when it comes to my own personal development because they've pushed me and they've loved me and they've made me a better man as well.
Well, the one thing else I've noticed about you, Coach, is you've always mentioned one thing, that you're always learning. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing that's impressed me too, because as young as you are, you along the way, you've always tried to absorb as much knowledge you can from anybody else. And that's impressive. Is basically you wanted to be the best you can be, and you want to learn to get better and be the best. But that being said, outside of, the last 2 years advancing to the state championship, what other magical moments have you had at Henderson Collegiate?
I think that the one that really sticks out was our senior night with the Pride of 2019. We had a player named Elijah Brown. Many people who follow our team know this story, but he was a junior and he passed away in a car accident. The anniversary of that was actually last week. And so, that was really it's hard to imagine a more trying time.
Right.
Both for our school, for our community, for our team. Our players are still extremely impacted by that moment. And we like to say that everything we do, we dedicate to him and to his mother, Stephanie Brown, to his aunt and to his brothers and his cousins. And the reason I say the senior night of 2019 is because that would have been his senior night. And so to be able to get to a place where we had set something up where the entire senior class was honored. The very last name was his name called, and his family all came up. They all received the same items that all the other senior families received, but to see a true standing ovation from the entire crowd,
Wow.
700 plus people, those are just things that you're never going to forget. And, every chant we do before a game is ball for Eli, ball for Eli. You see the number 33 on the back of our shirts. That was his number. That number has been forever retired at Henderson Collegiate. And, there's a reason for that. We want to honor him and honor his family every single time that we play. And I think that, we've done a really good job of that over the course of the last 2 years. And we know that he's always watching us. It's cool to be able to say that he's a champion now. It's great to be able to bring that home to our community and bring that home to his family.
Thanks for sharing that. That's very touching, very inspirational. Moving to next season, again, you guys are going to be playing quite a few of our Phenom events, and also you're going to be playing in the John Wall. Mm-hmm. What does this mean to you to play in these high-profile events, that little Henderson Collegiate, that 1A charter school in Henderson, North Carolina?
I mean, it's like a dream come true. I think that one of the things that we've always dreamed about, and I talked to all the guys, the five that I mentioned before, just about trusting the process so much, and about, we have all these goals and the events that we want to participate in and the teams that we want to play, so that we can really put Henderson on the map and leave a legacy for our community going forward. That's what these events are. I talked to someone with a local radio station yesterday, and they were talking about the John Wall, and I was like, do you guys realize that Montverde Academy played there? So the best team in the country was in Raleigh, and they were really beating up on people because they may be one of the best teams in the history of all of high school basketball. But then you talk about the fact that the number one player in the class of 2021 was there, and Jonathan Kuminga. And you talk about all the amazing programs with Moravian Prep, and you talk about Combine Academy. Then you talk about all the independent schools and all the public schools that have played there, the dozens and dozens of college prospects who play there, the dozens of NBA prospects potentially who play there, or the handful of NBA prospects who play there. That event was a really, really important one for us. I think that it's going to be absolutely fantastic for our community going forward, because what it should show everyone is that it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your area code. What matters is the commitment you have to the process and your belief that even through trying times, you're going to be able to achieve great things. And that's what we've been able to do. I can't wait to participate in the Phenom events again, because the same thing holds true for them. Last year, I thought one of our best games was when we lost to Moravian.
Right.
It was almost like after that game, you had people come up to you and be like, oh, so like you can really play. Like your team, like you guys can really go. And yeah, we can really go. We believe that any given night we're as good as any team across the country. And that belief is never going to change. The standard of us competing for state championships is never going to change. And, again, we don't apologize for that. We believe wholeheartedly in ourselves. And I think that these events really show that we're taking really big steps in the right direction to represent our community at a high level.
Well, Coach, I'll never forget the phone call you made to me, and it was over 2 years ago. And I think it was, your second year at Henderson Collegiate. You called me up and you were asking about, you want to get your team some exposure. I don't know whether you remember that or not. And I think the first thing you started doing was attending our high school jamboree. And that's when we sort of, was able to see Henderson Collegiate and sort of put you guys on the map. And of course you guys did all the work, but I remember the conversations we've had. And the one thing I wanted to get people having you on Coach's Corner is to show people that I wanted to show Coach George Marshall, the person, the coach. You're one of the most caring and compassionate coaches that I've come across. And you've always made an impression on me when I first, spoke to you, and we've developed a friendship over the last 2 years. And, you mean a lot to me, Coach, and the Henderson Collegiate team means a lot to us at Phenom. And I just want to say thank you for all you've done, your support. And, you know, thank you for coming on our Coach's Corner today.
I appreciate that, Coach. And you know that, you know, from our standpoint, you know, we love the Phenom family and all the things that you guys are doing for our kids. You guys know that I'm big into social justice and advocacy. And, you know, the way that we do that through basketball is by helping kids gain access to really incredible opportunities. And I think that that's often slept on when it comes to, you know, the Phenom family and the things that you're doing. So thank you, because you mean the world to us. You know, we're going to continue to work hard and continue to try and earn the events that you put out there. So hopefully we can make you guys proud this year as well.
Well, maybe this year you can advance to the state championship and we'll have an opportunity to play it, and you can win on the court as well.
It is what's crazy about our journey is that is kind of this missing thing now, right? It's like, you know, you're acknowledged as a co-state champion. I will tell everyone right now who watches this, the rings that we have and the rings that Winston-Salem Prep has will say state champion, not state co-champion. Andre and I agreed to that. There was no issue with it whatsoever. We wanted to check with one another, but you know, there's no problem in that regard. But it is kind of a big chip. You know, our kids have talked about that, how, you know, we want to get back to that point, and they're aware of the work they need to do to get there. And so I'm excited for that missing piece of our journey, because I think it'll be a great motivating factor for us throughout the season.
And I'm sure you'll get there, Coach.
I appreciate that. We'll see. We have a lot of work to do. We got to get through the coronavirus first.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach.